Okay, so today I'm gonna make arroz con pollo. My mom gave me the recipe today. I've made it once before, but I couldn't remember the steps. So I called my mother and she gave me the recipe and we're just gonna make it together. And let's just kind of fingers crossed that everything works out. This is a dish that I grew up with and it's basically arroz con pollo, rice and chicken. Usually or traditionally, the way my mom used to make or still makes it, she adds plátanos into the dish, but because of the circumstances and everything going on right now, the closest store to me is Albertsons and they don't carry plátanos in that store. And usually you can find those in a Latin American supermarket. And I like to get the plátanos that are ripe and sweet, so you get a little bit of saltiness and you get a little bit of sweetness, which is very common in a lot of the dishes from Nicaragua. So I'm kind of sad that I don't have the plátanos, but if you are able to get some plátanos, then you can include them into this dish. I'm gonna flip the camera around and just show you guys what I have here, what I'm gonna start off with. I have quite a bit of pieces of chicken going on here. I think I have maybe 7 or 8. I have a mix of thighs and drumsticks. I'm gonna wash my chicken first with a little bit of lemon and salt. So I'm just gonna squirt some of the lemon onto the chicken and rub some of the salt just to kind of wash it off. I was taught from a very young age to wash the chicken. I first rinse it with water, but I always just kind of rub it down with the lemon or lime, whichever one I have on hand, and then rub it down with some salt. I'm just gonna start off by squeezing in some of the lemon here. This is a really large lemon, so I think one really large lemon will be enough. And then I have some salt separate here and just drizzle it onto my chicken and wash it. So just kind of rub the juice and the salt onto the chicken, and then I'm also gonna let it sit, maybe not for a very long time, maybe a few minutes or so, no more than 5, and then I'm gonna rinse it again with a little bit of water. I'm not doing such a good job because I'm doing this one-handed. I'm gonna rinse out 1 cup of rice. This meal is gonna be enough for our family of 5, and maybe even have a little bit left over for tomorrow, maybe for one more dish or something like that. My mom, for her and my dad, she does maybe half of the amount of chicken and then a half a cup of rice for her, and she still always has a little bit left over. So I'm gonna rinse this out. She uses regular long grain white rice. I always have jasmine rice at home, so that's what I'm gonna be using for this dish. But any rice will work just fine, and it's pretty inexpensive. Rice is very inexpensive, and that pack of chicken, I think it came with 14 pieces mixed with like thighs and drumsticks. I think that was a little, maybe $5 and some change. So very inexpensive, and you're gonna need maybe tomatoes, a little bit of mint, onion, garlic, salt, Worcestershire sauce, and a little bit of vinegar. So already certain ingredients that we already carry in the home. I'm now gonna rinse off this chicken with water, and I'll probably do this off camera just because I'm trying to do this one-handed. But I just wanna rinse off the lemon juice and the salt. I have half of a bell pepper here, almost half of an onion. So I'm gonna cube these and add it into my pot. And then I also have an entire head of garlic. So I'm gonna peel all of these and put everything into this pot. So I put all of my pieces in here, and I filled up the water maybe about 1 inch above the chicken because some of this liquid is going to reduce. So I want to be able to have enough of the broth because that's what I'm going to cook the rice in. And at that point, once I add the rice and it's reducing a little bit too much because it needs to be a little bit watery, I can keep adding a little bit more water if I want to. Chicken is now on the stove. I added 2 teaspoons of salt, and it's now on medium. I don't know if you guys can see that. I want the chicken to partially cook. I don't want it to fully cook in this liquid because it's going to continue cooking with the rice. So I don't want it to get extremely soft. I am going to let it get to a boil and let it boil just for a little bit, but then take out the chicken, and we're gonna drain all of this and blend it all in because this is gonna add a lot of flavor into the arroz con pollo. I let mine sit a little bit too long. There's little stuff that comes out that sounds really gross that I like pulling out. Stuff like that, it just kind of comes out from the chicken. That's all the blood. I waited a little bit too long. I was distracted texting with my girlfriend, so it happens. But I'm gonna come in here and just kind of pull all of that out. You see that? And just clean it out a little bit. Some people like to rinse this out, like boil it once and then boil it again. I'm not one of those people, and my mom never used to do that because we believe that a lot of the flavor is in this juice, so we don't want to waste any of it. I'm gonna let this sit for a little bit longer, and then we're gonna blend the veggies with a little bit of the broth and then put the rice to cook. Okay, stove is off and chicken is out right there. I'm just gonna take all of these veggies out and put them in the blender. I am gonna drain a little bit of the liquid just in case any of the blood is left over, because I don't wanna try to get as little of that as possible, since, you know, I kind of made a boo-boo there. So I'm gonna start blending this first, and then as it's blending, I'm gonna add the liquid because I don't want the lid to pop off, because this liquid is boiling basically. Alrighty, I have 2 tomatoes. I thought they were Roma tomatoes. I had ripe Roma tomatoes, but I guess I finished them. And so I have 2 regular, probably medium-sized tomatoes in here. And I'm gonna blend this on medium, and then I'm gonna add the liquid slowly. Alright, so that's the mixture that I have. I'm gonna blend that maybe for another 15 seconds or so. So here I have my broth, which I went ahead and strained a little bit just to get any excess little gunk out, because I want it to be as clean as possible. And then I'm just gonna pour in my cup of rice. And over here I have about, I would say maybe a couple cups of russet potatoes, and I had a little bit left over of a butternut squash, so I cut them just a little bit smaller because they're take a little bit longer than the potatoes to cook. So just a tiny bit smaller than the potato. Let's see. You can see that. Just a little bit smaller so that they can cook at the same rate. So I'm gonna put this into the broth with the rice, and we're gonna season it a little bit more. Okay, I have a teaspoon of nor, which is the caldo de pollo, the chicken bouillon. I'm gonna add 1.5 for now. I'd rather salt it because she didn't tell me how much, and I tend to eyeball things. Just works out better for me. If it needs a little bit more later, then I'd rather season it once, you know, I'm eating. And then I'm gonna add some vinegar. This is just distilled vinegar, just regular vinegar. Add a splash of that, and I'm gonna add a splash of salsa inglesa. This is Worcestershire sauce. I think I'm gonna add a little bit more vinegar actually, because I like that little vinegar taste. And then let me grab, this is probably not the best way to show you guys, but I hope you guys can see this. So just stirring it a little bit. I went ahead and added my little mixture into this, and now I'm just gonna cover it and let it do its thing. And then when I come back, right before I turn it off, I'm not gonna add the chicken. My mom told me to add the chicken now, but my chicken looks pretty well cooked and I don't want it to overcook. So I think I'm gonna add it maybe at the last 5 minutes, and I'll also be adding some mint leaves into it, and then it should be done. The rice is almost done, and I already added my chicken. So I just kind of came in and just tried the rice to see how it's doing. It has a little bit of a bite, but it needs to be a little bit softer. So I went ahead and added the chicken, and then a little nugget there. I have about maybe 18 little leaves of mint. It smells so freaking good. So I rinse these off and I'm just gonna pick all of that up and just put it in here. Just give it a little mix so that it can submerge a little bit. And it's almost done. I think this liquid is gonna be perfect. I don't think I'm gonna have to add anything else. Let me grab a smaller. This pot, things tend to stick to this one. If you have a pot that where things tend to stick to it, just keep coming to it and just stirring so it doesn't get all stuck to the bottom. But look at that. And this is gonna be enough for dinner, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna have enough for tomorrow. I should though, actually, I think the potatoes are almost done too. Yeah, they're a little firm still. So they'll be done at the same time that the rice is done, which is why I decided to cut them a little bit bigger, because I wanted them to cook at the same rate. I did taste it a little bit for salt, see if it needed any more vinegar, Worcestershire sauce, or anything like that. And it's actually perfect, so I'm not gonna add anything. I did forget to say that when I added the vegetables, like the potatoes and the squash, that was a really great time. If you have plátanos, plantains, that would be a good time to add them into the pot so everything cooks together. And I really wish I had plátanos, but I don't, and I'm kind of heartbroken because it's so delicious with platano, but it's still good this way too. It's just right now we're working only with what we have, and for the most part I always have chicken in my freezer. We always have rice. We carry the big mama sizes. This is rice. That's beans. Mint I usually carry as well in the house once in a while. And then I always have tomatoes, I always have onions, I always have garlic, I always have vinegar and salsa inglesa, which is the Worcestershire sauce. So it's a very cheap meal to make, because technically, let's say you have all of those additional items, the only things that you may need to get extra maybe is the mint if you don't if you're not used to having it in your home. Maybe you need to go out and buy the chicken and the rice. So not very expensive, and it feeds a lot of people, and it's really delicious. I'm actually gonna turn this down just a little bit, only because it's sticking to the bottom and I don't want it to stick too much more, and this doesn't have that much more to go. No sé qué está haciendo esto. Así no, así. Okay. Let's grab a little bit from the pot-a-roo, if this will focus. Friggin' A. Oh my god. So good. If you don't have no sweet sauce, you could just add a little bit more salt. I actually want more mint in this. So I added 18 sprigs. I'm gonna add maybe 5 more because I really like mint. And I want it to come through for me. So I'm gonna add the 5 leaves now and then just turn it off. I'm gonna turn off the heat and cover it and let it sit for a little bit, just so that the leaves break down a little bit with the heat. No additional heat, so I'm turning off the heat right now. And then you can, it's kind of like not a soup, what is it called? Not the soup, the thick soup, what is it called? A stew. It's kind of like a stew. How many mints? Oh god, I love the smell of mint. I like adding mint into just hot water. Oh, so good. Or just regular room temperature water. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm gonna add 6. And I'm actually just gonna break them down just a little bit and stir it. My kid is playing with her papa, so excuse them. So let me turn this around so you guys can see this. See how much thicker it got? So the rice. So I'm gonna put the recipe down below if you guys want to try it out. It's delicious. So good. Highly recommend it with the platano, like I said before, because it adds a really nice, the sweetness and the saltiness complement each other so freaking well. So I do recommend it, especially if you love plátanos. But we're just gonna leave it like that, and it's really delicious as is. But with the plátanos, I know I keep going on and on about the plátanos, but I really, like, my mouth is salivating just thinking about it. That is it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you guys try it, let me know. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye. Cut.